Hi there. If you're watching this video right now, maybe, just maybe, somewhere in your heart, you've asked yourself a quiet question. Something deeply personal. Something you've never quite said out loud. When we were younger, we talked about love, joy, connection, the beautiful parts of life. But as the years passed, as our hair turned silver, the kids grew up. Some of us lost our husbands or simply found ourselves sitting in long, quiet afternoons. Something else crept in. Silence. No one asks anymore. Do you still feel desire? No one dares to wonder. At this age, do I still have the right to touch myself without feeling ashamed? I've spent over 30 years working with thousands of postmenopausal women. And if there's one thing that still weighs on me deeply, it's this. Nearly 90% of those women carry silence, shame, and a painful feeling that they're no longer whole. They don't talk about it, not because they don't feel, but because they think. They're not allowed to feel. Society taught us that masturbation is wrong, that it's something to hide, especially once we're older. But let me ask you something. Who decided that? I want you to ask yourself this. If a woman in her 60s or 70s still longs, is that really wrong? I once sat across from a 72-year-old woman, widowed for over a decade. Her eyes welled up as she whispered to me like a confession. I still feel, but I'm scared. I feel guilty. I reached out and held her hand and said the same words I want to say to you now. No, you are not wrong. You're simply alive. Because feeling at any age is part of being human. And touching your own body with care, with tenderness, it isn't shameful. It's a quiet reminder to yourself. I'm still here. I'm still me. Have you ever felt that way? If so, then this video, it's for you. And if no one has ever told you this before, let me be the first. Today, I want to share 9 deeply human truths, the kind every older woman deserves to hear. And if anything I've said so far has touched your heart, please leave a simple comment down below. Something like, I wish I'd known this sooner. Because that one sentence might be the very light another woman, silently searching for answers, needs to stumble across this video and realize she's not alone. Hit like if this speaks to you. Hit subscribe if you would like to hear more honest, gentle truths like this every week. And now, if you're sitting alone right now, go ahead. Make yourself a warm cup of tea or coffee and come sit with me. Because some stories can only be shared between women. Truth number 1, you are not alone. Your feelings are real, and you have the right to reconnect with yourself. It was a quiet afternoon in my clinic. A 71-year-old woman sat across from me. She wore a soft blue cardigan, her hands gently clasped in her lap, eyes lowered. And then, in a small, trembling voice, she said, Doctor, I still feel things, but after I touch myself, I don't feel the same release anymore. I just feel empty. Am I doing something wrong at this age? I reached for her hand, held it gently, and said, No, you are not doing anything wrong. Your body is simply whispering to you that it's time to love yourself in a new way, softer, slower, deeper. You see, so many of us were raised to believe that masturbation was something for the young, for the bodies full of hormones, for the smooth skin of youth, for that quick, fiery desire. And when that fire changes, when it no longer burns as bright, we think something's broken. Or worse, we feel ashamed. But here's the truth, my friend. Your ability to feel hasn't disappeared. It's simply evolved. Like a piece of music that slows down with age, becomes more soulful, more tender. Your body after 60 doesn't need urgency anymore. It doesn't chase climax. It craves presence. It longs to be honored. You may not feel with the same intensity as you did at 40, but when you let go of the need to feel like you used to, something beautiful happens. You begin to feel again, not in a rushed, explosive way, but with real connection and a deep, loving acceptance of who you are now. A woman I once worked with, 67 years old, widowed for over a decade, once told me, "I thought I was too old to feel anything anymore. But when I slowed down, when I stopped trying to reach a goal, I found something else. Peace. A sense of coming home to myself." Have you ever felt that way? If so, please know this. You are not alone. And you don't have to return to the body you once had. You only need to return to this body, the one you live in now, with the gentleness it's always deserved. Truth number 2. Porn quietly numbs your emotions. And here's how you can bring real feeling back to life. I want to share something with you that might be hard to hear, but it's also one of the most important truths I've learned. Not long ago, I met a 69-year-old woman. She used to be a nurse, retired now, a mother of 3. From the outside, she was a caregiver, a wife, a strong, nurturing woman. But on the inside, she was empty. She looked down and said quietly, "I still want to feel something. I'm still curious. But there's nothing there anymore. Just emptiness." I gently asked her what had changed, and she told me, almost apologetically, that to try and wake her body up, she had started watching porn. At first, she thought it would help, but the more she watched, the more disconnected she became. No spark, no joy, just a mechanical routine. Her body was unresponsive, her heart numb. Have you ever felt something like that? I'm not asking to judge. I'm asking because you deserve to understand what's truly happening inside you. You see, modern porn is designed to hit the nervous system hard and fast. It overwhelms. It bypasses emotion. And it burns through dopamine, that beautiful brain chemical that helps you feel joy, connection, and desire. And soon, your own body, your skin, your breath, your memories, starts to feel dull, muted, compared to all those flashing, hypersexual images on a screen. So what happens next? You need more and more stimulation just to feel a flicker. But afterward, you're left tired, distant, and empty. But here's the part I really want you to hear. The brain can heal. It really, truly can. When some of my patients stopped watching porn, even just for a few weeks, sometimes just a few days, and instead turned to softer things, their imagination, a loving memory, their breath, something beautiful began to return. One woman looked at me, her eyes wide, almost in disbelief, and said, "I didn't know I could still tremble from real feeling at this age. But I did. And I cried." That moment, I'll never forget. Because you see, your real feelings, they were never gone. They've just been buried, asleep beneath the noise, the pressure to react instantly, the belief that you've somehow become numb. But the truth is, you can wake them back up. Gently, slowly, with tenderness. You can return to yourself, one breath, one memory, one soft moment at a time. Truth number 3. Self-touch isn't about lust. It's a quiet conversation with the heart. Let me ask you something from one woman to another. Have you ever touched yourself, not to chase pleasure, but simply to remind yourself that you're still here, that you still exist? I ask because I've heard this whispered time and again from hundreds of women, their voices trembling, their eyes hesitant, as if confessing something shameful. One day I sat with a woman, 68 years old, widowed for nearly 15 years. Her house, she said, was too quiet. So quiet she forgot the last time anyone had touched her. And then, with her gaze lowered and her voice thick with emotion, she said, "Sometimes I still touch myself, but only when the lights are off, when no one sees, when no one knows. It feels like something wrong." I looked into her eyes, and I want to say the same thing to you right now. There's nothing wrong, nothing shameful. What you're doing isn't an act of lust, it's an act of courage. It's your way of telling your body, I'm still here. I never left you. You know, the longer a woman spends her life as a mother, a wife, a caregiver, the easier it becomes to forget that her own body also deserves to be touched, not just by someone else, but by herself, with care, with love. When self-touch is done with presence, with reverence, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes healing. No climax is needed, no performance, just a quiet evening, a deep breath, and a little gentleness. And then, like a soft stream finding its way home, you may feel something unexpected. Oh, I'm still here. I can still feel, and I still deserve this. When you strip away the layers of guilt, of shame, when you let go of the belief that this is only for the young, you may discover something no one ever told you. That self-touch, in its purest, most honest form, might just be the most sacred gift a woman can offer her own heart. Truth number 4. You don't have to reach climax. Feeling is what truly matters. Have you ever found yourself wondering, if I don't climax, does it even count? Does it mean something's wrong with me? This is one of the most common misunderstandings I've heard, not just from younger women, but from women well into their 60s and 70s too. We were taught that climax, orgasm, is the goal. It's the finish line, the proof that we did it right. And when it doesn't come, or doesn't come as easily, so many women start to feel disappointed, even broken. Some quietly think to themselves, maybe I'm not a real woman anymore. But let me gently remind you, you're not in a race anymore. You don't have to chase anything. Yes, climax may still happen, and if it does, beautiful. But if it doesn't, that's okay too. Because the real gift is in the presence. It's in the way your breath deepens, in the slow rhythm of your hands, in the soft flutter that rises in your chest when you let go of the pressure to perform. Many of my patients have told me something powerful. Once I stopped trying so hard to reach orgasm, I finally felt something real again, for the first time in years. I felt alive. So, no. You don't need to get somewhere. You only need to be here, right here, with yourself, fully present, fully open, fully enough. Truth number 5. These changes aren't brokenness. They're an invitation to love yourself in a new way. Dear friend, have you ever found yourself wondering, why doesn't my body respond like it used to? Am I losing something? I've heard this question so many times, from women who spent their whole lives being teachers, nurses, caretakers. Women who gave so much. But as they aged, they started to feel like they were slowly losing a part of what made them feel like a woman. I'll never forget one woman in particular. She was 66. She came into my clinic quietly, and with a voice full of pain, she said, "I don't feel anything anymore, doctor. Sometimes it even hurts. I think something's broken in me." I took her hand and said the same words I want to say to you now. No, you are not broken. You haven't lost anything. Your body is simply changing, just as nature intended. After menopause, estrogen drops. Blood flow to the vaginal area slows down. Tissues lose elasticity. Sensation shifts. And yes, it may take more time, more moisture, more tenderness to feel good, or simply to feel connected. But none of that means your sensuality is gone. In fact, when you stop clinging to the image of the woman you once were and start listening to the woman you are now, something beautiful begins to unfold. I remember a 70-year-old wife who told me, when I stopped trying to feel like I did in the past, that's when I finally felt close to my husband and to myself in a way I never had before. Does that sound familiar? Have you ever found yourself rushing, trying to recreate how things used to be, only to feel frustrated or sad when it didn't happen? If so, I want you to know, you don't need to be who you were. You only need to be honest with who you are, right now. Intimacy after 60 is no longer about racing to climax. It's about slowing down, being present, and treating your body with softness and compassion. Let every time you touch yourself be a quiet whisper. I see you. I know you've changed, but I'm still here. And I still love you, exactly as you are. If something in this spoke to your heart, stay with me. Because in truth number 6, we'll talk about something powerful. Self-pleasure doesn't drain desire. When done with care, it can actually reignite your will to live. Truth number 6, masturbation doesn't kill desire. When done with care, it can actually reignite your will to live. A 64-year-old woman once sat with me during a session and said, "I feel tired after I touch myself. I worry. Am I doing something wrong? Is this why I'm losing interest in others?" I looked at her, just as I'm looking at you now, and I answered her honestly, "No. It's not because you're doing it too much. It's not because you're getting older. And it's certainly not because something is wrong with you. What's often missing is presence. What's missing is love." You see, so many people, not just women, treat masturbation like a quick fix, a rushed, automatic act, a secret habit laced with guilt, used to fill a hollow space inside. And when it's done that way, of course you feel drained. Not because the act itself takes your energy, but because it gives nothing back to your soul. But when you begin to approach it differently, like a small ritual, a quiet date with yourself, everything begins to shift. I once had a patient, 70 years old, who told me she had given up on intimacy altogether. She said, "I thought desire was gone. I felt nothing. But then I started again, slowly. No pressure, no goal. I just sat down, placed my hands on my body, took a deep breath, and listened." She came back a month later. Her eyes lit up, truly lit up. She smiled and said, "I don't feel like I'm fading anymore. I feel like I'm blooming again, like an autumn flower." That's the power of presence. Masturbation doesn't weaken you, not when it's done with compassion. In fact, it can rebalance your hormones, improve blood flow, activate emotional centers in your brain, And most of all, remind you that your body is still alive, still responsive, still worthy of love. You don't need to do it right. You just need to be there, not to perform, not to achieve, just to feel, slowly, gently, and fully. Truth number 7, your body is your home, and it doesn't need to be perfect to be worthy of love. I know. There are moments when you look in the mirror and see that your skin isn't as firm as it once was. Your eyes are softer now. Your shape has shifted. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice asks, who would want to touch this body anymore? But pause for a second. Take a breath. And let me ask you something. When did you start believing that your body had to be perfect in order to deserve love? A 73-year-old woman once shared with me, I've given birth to 4 children, had 2 surgeries. I survived breast cancer, and still I blame myself for not being sexy like I used to be. I gently held her hand and asked, why do you believe that a body that has lived, that has loved, that has sacrificed, no longer deserves to be touched with tenderness? Your body, with its scars, its wrinkles, its changes, is still your home. And just like any home, it needs warmth, not because it's flawless, but because it's yours. You don't need to be young to be beautiful. You only need to be honest with who you are now. And that honesty, that quiet truth, it carries a kind of beauty the world often forgets. So, the next time you look at yourself, don't search for what's missing. Look for what's endured. And remind yourself, this body has held me through every season, and no matter how it looks, it is still worthy of love. Truth number 8. Learning to love yourself again can breathe new life into your marriage. A 65-year-old woman once confided in me. She said she loved her husband deeply. They had shared decades together, but now it feels distant, dry, like we're just going through the motions. Something's missing, and it doesn't feel real anymore. I looked at her gently and asked a simple question. As a wife, have you ever truly been a woman for yourself? She went silent. You see, so many women spend their lives giving, as wives, as mothers, as caretakers, always pouring out, but rarely turning inward to offer love to themselves. But something shifts when a woman begins to return to her own body, not with big gestures or romantic fantasies, but with just a few minutes a day, a soft, quiet moment where she touches herself. No goal, no pressure, just presence. And something strange and beautiful begins to happen. Life stirs again, sensation awakens, the heart softens. That tenderness, that aliveness she thought she had lost, begins to rise. One woman told me, I didn't just feel closer to myself. I started to see my husband differently, more clearly, more kindly. It was like a missing part of me returned. You see, this journey isn't just for women who live alone. It's also for those who are still in relationships, but haven't truly felt close in a long, long time. Sometimes, to reconnect with someone else, you have to first come home to yourself. Truth number 9. Speaking up isn't weakness. It's the beginning of your return. My dear friend, I want you to remember something. From the time we were little girls, we were taught to stay silent. Silent when we hurt. Silent when we had needs. Silent when we were curious about our bodies. And as we grew older, that silence only grew stronger. A proper woman doesn't talk about sex. At your age, what's the point of bringing that up? So you stayed silent. You didn't ask. You didn't share. You didn't tell anyone about the quiet nights when your body still longed to be touched, when your heart still wanted to feel. You simply held all those questions, alone. And somewhere along the way, you began to believe you were the only one who felt this way, but you're not. Let me tell you, with all the honesty and warmth I can offer, there are millions of women just like you. Women in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, who still have emotions, who still want to be touched, who still long to be loved and connected. And just like you, they don't talk about it. One of my patients, a 75-year-old widow, living alone for over a decade, once said to me, "I still touch myself, not because of lust, but because I miss the feeling of closeness. But I've never told anyone that. Not once." And when I looked at her and said, "There's nothing wrong with that. Your body is still yours. You have every right to listen to it, to love it," she cried. Not because of pain, but because for the first time in 75 years, someone finally said yes to her truth. Do you know how healing that is? Have you ever wished someone would look you in the eye and say, "You're not strange. You're not wrong. You're simply alive," and brave enough to feel it? If you've never heard those words before, let me be the first to say them now. You are completely normal. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are evolving. And your body, even in all its changes, still deserves to be loved, touched, cherished. And when you finally speak, even if it's just to a doctor, a trusted friend, or simply your own reflection in the mirror, what you receive isn't just an answer. It's freedom. Freedom from silence. Freedom from guilt. Freedom from the invisible shame this world has wrapped around you for too long. And in that moment, when you speak your truth, something magical happens. You don't just heal yourself. You light the way for another woman still searching. So if these words have touched something in you, please don't keep it to yourself. Leave just one line below. "I wish I had known this sooner." Because maybe, just maybe, somewhere, a woman feeling alone will read that line and realize she's not alone anymore. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. Age may slow our steps, but it will never silence the desire to connect, to feel, to be understood and loved with our whole beautiful selves. I'll see you again in the next video, where every new day is another chance to return to yourself, gently and proudly.